whenever we think about factories, we tend to imagine hot, humid, sort of dusty places, which kind of is true. But truly, factories are modern day like miracles where the cutting edge of technology, culture, art, science sort of converge, where they're trying to squeeze the maximum efficiency out of the whatever they're producing possible. In fact, these factories are run by humans, and humans tend to take decisions on a daily, hourly, weekly basis. Now, that is where one of the biggest inefficiencies come in, where humans, when they're taking decisions, they're limited, one, by their ability to observe and see what is really happening, and second, analyze them in terms of what would be the best course of action. So this is where we come in as Faclon, the organization that I run, where we are building an operating system for the physical world, and where we reimagine how these factories are run and how decisions are made. So before jumping into what we are doing, let's try to understand the landscape a little more. So in terms of understanding the state of manufacturing in India and globally, to start with India, we in India alone have more than 2 lakh manufacturing setups of all shapes and sizes across all sorts of sectors. And the reality is that most of these factories are very inefficient. In fact, there's a number called OEE, which is like an operating effectiveness of a factory, where in India we are seeing it somewhere around 40%. What it means is that if a factory can produce like 100 rupees of outcome, they're only producing 40 rupees. That's a loss. There's a lot of leaked outcome in terms of a typical area where a lot of these ingenuities are being put in. In fact, this is a much bigger problem at a global landscape. If I talk about amount of leakages at a global landscape, it's more than $2.2 trillion, which is, if you have to imagine it, it's like one of the 10 largest economies in the world just stop working, like just stop to exist. That's a quantum of untapped resources that are being losses that are being done. But we are in India and we are amazed to see and very lucky to be a part of this ecosystem because we believe that India is the beacon of innovation where amazing products are being built. And at least for the next 2 decades, definitely we'll lead the charts in terms of building best in class products and taking it to the world. We train more than 1.5 million engineers on an annual basis. And we ask the question, how come we are producing so many engineers, so much engineering outcome, but yet not solving some basic stuff? It is because we realize that though we are producing a lot of engineering, we're not producing better products. This is where we sort of took a challenge to build an amazing set of products in India and take it to the world. And in fact, it's not just the engineering talent that is available, the sort of 2 lakh factories that are available for you to play with them, test things out with them. It's also a superpower in terms of India's cost of operations. So for example, a tech like this can be built either in India or US, Israel, Germany, something like this. But the reality is that with the same amount of capital available, if you're building it in India or the West, we can just produce much more product outcomes. We can just produce much more service outcomes with the same capital. So, yeah, in this present age, to build such a thing, it's only possible in India, and we want to sort of be a part of that India journey as we're building this thing out. In fact, as we started a journey in terms of transforming how these factories are run and how can we help them take better data-driven decisions by embedding intelligence in their day-to-day lives, what we realize is that there are two broad problems to be solved. The first problem is what we call as a factory heterogeneity problem. What that means is that every factory is fundamentally unique, every shop floor is fundamentally unique. And how can I deliver this sort of intelligence which is tailored and hyper customized for that specific shop floor? And these are not a few hundred or few thousands of shop floors. They're looking at lakhs and lakhs of footprint to be sort of digitized. So that was one major problem to be solved. How do I sort of deliver hyper customized intelligence at scale? But then there was also a second problem. Somehow, if you're able to get to a point where we have these insights available, how do I sort of solve the insights consumption problem? Because a good insight, a good recommendation is as good as a person using it. So, a challenge there is that the platform or the product should speak the language of the customer, not the other way around, because every factory is again run in a very different way. Culturally, they have different types of processes, ways, jargons, whatever. So it forced us to think like very out of the box. In fact, at times, really pushing the traditional way of building a SaaS product. So we went to the whiteboard and really sort of target the heart of the problem if I have to build something that is this scalable, but also this serviceable, but not developable, then we need to build an end-to-end stack where every piece of this sort of configuration can be like fine-tuned as a technician. So that is where we have built this integrated stack across the board. And once you started going to the market, we have been seeing amazing results. So circling back to the 40% efficiency number, once we help them take better decisions, we're looking at a more than 35% increment in their effectiveness, and in fact, more than 20% reduction in cost across major customers that we're seeing. And this is a huge impact. Like people are happy with 5, 10, 15% impact. We're looking at a tectonic shift in terms of the value being unlocked. This simply means more products being produced at lower costs and much sort of better products being produced. And the reality is that if we make our factories efficient, it's not just that the factory owners and the stakeholders are enjoying the benefits. We live in a world which is resource deficit. So just by making these operations more efficient, just by reducing leakages and losses across these systems, we are not only though we are not crossing the mark of being surplus, we are at least reducing the deficit mark of living a high quality of life to what is available. So I think this is the need of the hour in terms of how most we can sort of extract out of what is available. Our journey for now has been really amazing. For the last 4 years have been amazing. We have more than 250 customers now across 4 countries. And to take an example again, to let this sink in also, I would love to take an example of an Indian customer, which is one of the largest commodity manufacturer here. In fact, once we went in there and we digitized their whole plant, which really transformed the way they ran their sort of show. So if I have to talk about impact, there were three broad buckets of impact that they have seen. One, touching the most top line, was how they were running the production processes. So our system was helping them and sort of recommending them around process parameters and sort of their production planning. So depending on what they have to produce, what is the requirement from the sales side, what sort of capacity they have available, the system is recommending them schedules and production planning parameters. And once they're running the show, it's also recommending what are the settings that they need to fine tune, which like at a human level is very difficult because you tend to have these sort of process masters with an empirical basis are taking the decisions. So our systems tend to just unlock that different level of value add. The second area that we have seen that they really sort of unlocked a lot of value is around the maintenance. With our systems in place, they have now real-time analysis of the health of their assets, how well they're running, if they're about to fail or not. And now they can plan their maintenance cycles. They can sort of figure out how to most optimize the production lines, thereby not only getting more airtime on production, but also reducing unplanned downtimes. And obviously, the third piece are the much more simpler wins around different sustainability aspects, like being much more better on energy management, around the compliances, just by unlocking more observability and visibility. So I like to conclude my talk that yes, we are building the operating system of the physical world, but we're not just limited to factories. Thank you so much.